cause that be natural.
Lady D.
Ain't looking tacky. I keep my game tactful.
Yo,
yeah, I'm so nappy. Cause that be natural.
The infamous.
Ain't looking tacky cause I keep my game tactful.
I'm so pretty, I'm so fabu, I'm so natural, it's like it's a taboo. I'm so filthy, got the tattoos, stuck in these bitches like I own ragu. On my business with my platoon, getting these minutes like I'm a typhoon. Y'all is jersey on that cartoon and I'm still on top. Come by to tell Poe about an Asian connect who is on America's Most Wanted. However, the deal could be lucrative if they took the risk. Poe arranged for Dahlia and Rocco to go to Korea and close that deal. Liberty had finally convinced herself to tell Poe about the baby. She brought the duffel bag of money back so that Poe could take care of them. She kept throwing hints, but it kept going over his head. But then she finally told him they were happy, realized how much they missed each other, and then headed to the bedroom. But Poe didn't want to disrespect Liberty by laying her in the same bed he had another woman, so he took her to the guest bedroom instead and made a mental note to get the bed replaced in his room. Dahlia and Rocco were able to establish a relationship with the Asians. Dahlia knew that there was no way Poe could refuse her now, and she was eager to get back to him. Once they arrived back at the estate, Rocco was tired and told Dahlia to tell Poe he would holler at him later. Once Dahlia entered the mansion, she noticed it was pitch black, so she headed to Poe's room to only find an empty bed. Then she went to his office, and of course he wasn't there. However, she did notice one of the guest bedrooms' doors closed, so she slowly turned to peek inside, and there she saw Liberty laying in Poe's arms. Dahlia's mind went to racing. She wanted to know what was Liberty doing there. Did Poe know about the baby? Did she have an abortion, etc., etc.? Ended up throwing a get together to announce the news and to introduce Liberty to the newest members of the team. Dahlia sat back in the cut, disgusted, until Ayo addressed her. Later, she was able to get Poe off to himself to ask him about them, and Poe pretty much told her there was no them. She belonged to Omega and he wanted Liberty. Plus, she was Liberty's cousin, and that he didn't want to hurt her. Dahlia persisted to seduce Poe, but he refused her. He told her it was over, and Dahlia told him it was far from over. Poe then got a little physical with Dahlia for threatening him. He told her he would send her back to Africa in a pine box. Dahlia returned to the party smiling, but had a look of devilment behind her eyes, and Ayo knew that look all too well. He pulled Poe to the side to tell him it was obvious that they had been sleeping together. He warned Poe to send Dahlia back to Africa before things got ugly. They were building an empire, and Dahlia could be the cause of their fall. Dahlia ended up club hopping in the city and tricking off of young dudes. She was enjoying her freedom and never wanted to leave. She also wanted Poe and was willing to do anything to get him. Dahlia felt warm hands caressing her legs and let out a moan, only to find Omega sitting at the foot of her bed. Omega thought she looked like a rundown whore because she still had on the makeup from the night before. She tried to come up with a lie, but when Omega asked her whose hands did she think was rubbing her, she couldn't come up with anything. He told her to pack her things and he would be waiting downstairs. Omega had gotten a call from Rocco telling him that Dahlia was getting out of control, so Omega wanted to slip in and judge for himself. Upon leaving, she heard Poe pretty much dismissing her, and Liberty gave her a hug and goodbyes, but Dahlia didn't return it. She just thought to herself that she would be back quicker than she knew. Dahlia also came across like she headed out for the baby's pointer. On the flight back to Africa, Omega asked Dahlia what was she doing while in the States. He wanted to hear from Dahlia. Dahlia thought for a second and then began trying to seduce him before answering. However, she ended up telling Omega that Poe got drunk and came on to her, then tried to kiss her. Omega then asked her did the two of them have relations. She told him she would never do anything like that to him. Omega grabbed his phone and called everyone that Poe could have been affiliated with on every level and worldwide and had him cut off. Omega felt betrayed by Poe based off what Dahlia was saying. The next morning, while Omega was sleeping, Dahlia cut his throat from ear to ear. She no longer wanted to be his prisoner. However, she wanted all the power. Now that Omega was dead and she had all his contacts, she knew that Poe would come running back to her. Anyway, Dahlia's excuse was that someone broke into broke in to rob them and ended up cutting Omega. However, she couldn't see anything because it was too dark. Poe showed up for Omega's funeral. The guards wouldn't let him in. Dahlia didn't want to cause a scene at her late husband's funeral, so she told Poe to meet her at her estate. Once there, she explained to Poe that Omega had him cut off because he thought he was stealing. Then, of course, she reminded Poe that she had all her husband's connects and she could be Poe's new connect. Poe was lost in thought, thinking about who was close enough to him and Omega to be telling lies like that. He thought of Ayo, and that's exactly who Dahlia wanted him to think of, because Ayo could see right through her, so she needed him out of the picture. Anyway, Dahlia ended up seducing Poe again, especially since he didn't bring Liberty with him. Poe was left trying to figure out how he would juggle both girls. Dahlia called Zulu over so that they could work out a deal on the diamonds. Of course, she ended up seducing him. They had relations, and then Dahlia slipped on a strap-on because she had heard that Zulu got down with some of his soldiers. Anyway, Zulu enjoyed the experience. However, what he didn't know is that Dahlia was recording the entire fiasco and was ready to put it on all social media platforms for the world and Zulu's wife to see. So she blackmailed him into doing business with her and giving her the diamonds dirt cheap. Dahlia flew back to LA to tell Poe the news that she was able to secure the diamonds from Zulu for dirt cheap. When Poe asked her how was she able to do that, she responded with, "If I tell you, I would have to slit your throat in your sleep." Poe let the statement go over his head because he was so happy and excited that Dahlia was able to pull this off. So he grabbed her in his arms and lifted her off the ground. That's when Liberty walked in asking what was going on. Poe told her that he needed Dahlia here with him and that she would be staying for a while, so they needed to make her comfortable. Liberty wasn't feeling it at first. She wanted to live with her husband alone. However, she remembered Dahlia had just lost Omega. Poe ordered Rocco to murk Ayo, and Rocco wasn't feeling it. He had been with Ayo every day for months and knew that he was not guilty of any of the things Dahlia put in Poe's ear about him. Rocco didn't question the order. He just tried to make it quick and less painful as possible on Ayo. Liberty was having a hard time with the side effects of early pregnancy. She constantly had morning sickness, and this particular day, Poe was at her side as she hugged the toilet. He offered to make her a light lunch of crackers, cheese, and sparkling cider. However, when he made it to the kitchen, Dahlia was already in there preparing a fruit smoothie for Liberty that was mixed with crushed Plan B pills. She would give them to Poe to give to Liberty, and Liberty never knew that Dahlia was the one making them. This went on day after day. One day, Poe and Liberty had to leave together to go to the doctor's appointment, so they ended up leaving Dahlia home alone. With this opportunity, she decided to experiment more with the smoothies. She needed to get more pills into the smoothie without changing the taste. However, during her experiment, Trixie walked in on her. She had come by to bring Liberty some soup and saw the sick game Dahlia was playing on her very own blood cousin. Trixie confronted Dahlia, but Dahlia pulled a gun on her and made her go into the basement. She had quickly devised a plan to make it seem like Trixie came there to rob the safe, so she shot her in self-defense. Once Dahlia shot Trixie in between the eyes, she ran back upstairs to grab a gun to plant on her. Then she called Poe using her acting skills to convince him of her story. Liberty wasn't buying it though. She saw too many holes in Dahlia's story. She tried to tell Poe that Dahlia was lying, but Poe told Liberty to mind her business. However, Liberty decided then and there to keep an eye on cousin Dahlia and get to the bottom of it. We shower, inviting everyone from the team. However, before the baby shower was over, Liberty began feeling sharp pains in her stomach. Poe took her to the bathroom, and that's when they saw the blood. Then Poe and Rocco rushed Liberty to the hospital. Dahlia stayed back with the guests. Plus, she already knew what was going on because she had been waiting on the Plan B pills to work their magic. The hospital confirmed the miscarriage, pretty much saying that they couldn't pinpoint what caused it and that sometimes it happens spontaneously. Over the next few weeks, Poe and Liberty mourned and grew further apart because Liberty was taking the miscarriage so hard. One day, her and Poe had an argument, and she compared him to Asha again, and Poe was livid, so he grabbed his keys and left before he said something that he would later regret. So as he was leaving, he ran into Dahlia, who stood there flirting with him and then offered for him to ride with her. What they didn't know is that Liberty saw them. She was staring at them from her room window. She questioned the entire scene and then tried to call Poe, but didn't get an answer. Dahlia went out to a bar and hung out. Dahlia was busy trying to put a wedge between Poe and Liberty. She told Poe that he didn't have anything to worry about as long as Liberty wasn't hiding shoebox money, planning her escape. Poe put the thought in the back of his mind and enjoyed Dahlia's company for the rest of the night. Liberty waited up for Poe and didn't hear him and Dahlia return to the mansion until 5 a.m. the next morning. Liberty kept telling Poe that she no longer wanted the Dahlia there. She was getting closer and closer to Poe and was running around the mansion acting like it was her house. Poe kept using the same excuse that she was there for him and the business. It began to get obvious to Rocco that Poe and Dahlia were messing around. Anyway, Poe was growing tired of Liberty. The more time he spent with Dahlia, he went to take a shower and was feeling sex deprived because he hadn't been with Liberty since the miscarriage. So he began pleasuring himself in the shower until he heard the door close. He called out to Liberty, thinking that that's who entered the room, when it really was Dahlia, who entered the room with nothing on but a lace robe. They got into the shower together, and one thing led to another. However, in the midst of their shenanigans, Liberty came into the bathroom, but Poe and Dahlia were behind the shower curtain, still going at it, as Poe held a conversation with Liberty, then sent her to go get Rocco. He finished with Dahlia, and Dahlia crept back to her room after placing a shoebox full of her own money into their closet. So after Poe got out of the shower and began to get dressed, those words Dahlia said played back about the shoebox money, and that's when Poe went to rambling and found the shoebox Dahlia had planted, thinking it was Liberty's. He was livid. He didn't even want to talk to Liberty. Even though she kept trying to talk to him, he kept dismissing her. Liberty ended up trying to confront Dahlia. She went to Dahlia's room and began to pull all of her clothes down out of the closet. She told her to pack her things and leave. Of course, Dahlia didn't really budge and continued doing her makeup. She knew that Poe would never let her leave. Sat up, waiting in the dark in the kitchen. Poe finally came in to get something to drink and was startled that he found Liberty sitting there when he turned on the lights. She pretty much told Poe that she noticed that the more Dahlia was around, the more they grew further apart. She also questioned why Dahlia was so confident that he would choose her. Then she asked Poe how long had they been sleeping together, and Poe asked her how long had she been stealing his money. Liberty wasn't expecting that response, so she was taken aback. Soon Dahlia entered the kitchen and Liberty went at her. Poe held her back. Liberty then gave Poe an ultimatum. It was either her or the business. Of course, Poe dismissed Liberty and chose the business. Poe and Rocco headed to Africa to meet with Zulu after Dahlia made the arrangements. Poe told Rocco he needed him to make sure Liberty was straight. In other words, letting Rocco know that he and Liberty were done. Rocco asked him was he sure about that. And of course, Poe wasn't worried about Liberty now that he had Dahlia. Either way, the men went to Africa with hopes of buying a share from Zulu in the diamond mines. Of course, Zulu wasn't feeling it at first, but he let Poe have 30% of his empire. However, he wasn't pleased, but he couldn't risk losing his best client. He was sitting waiting for Dahlia to leave Poe's estate. Liberty had left the night before and drove around the city all night. She was ashamed, hurt, and sad that she had let another woman come in and take over her home. Liberty only wanted the money back that she had led Poe to from the Samad fiasco. She didn't want anything more or less from Poe. As soon as she saw Dahlia leave the premises, she ran inside the mansion to collect her things. Once she went in her closet, she saw the money spilled out on the floor from the size 7 shoebox. She realized then what Poe had been accusing her of and couldn't believe that he thought she would be stashing chump change when she had more money than that on her own. And the fact that she didn't wear a size 7, she wore a size 10. She then went to Dahlia's closet and discovered that Dahlia wore a size 7. Dahlia interrupted her and told her she was asked to leave. Liberty responded, "Would you set me up?" Dahlia asked her, "Are you going to run back and tell on me? Are you going to force me to leave so you can reclaim your throne?" She told her, "You don't know who you're messing with. I already took your man. Don't make me take your life. Your best bet is to stay out of my way before I put you in the dirt like I did Omega." Liberty couldn't believe her ears, but at that moment she knew Dahlia was the seed of the devil. She felt like Poe chose to let this demon in his bed, so he would have to deal with it. Liberty collected her things with no plan of returning ever again. As Liberty was leaving, she bumped into Rocco. They both talked about how Dahlia was controlling Poe and making him more sloppy. Rocco stated that he noticed Dahlia's evil eyes and dark soul too. Dahlia was staring at them, two of them talk in front of the house. She locked eyes with Rocco and knew that he was next to go. Once she saw them get into their car, she saw Rocco follow Liberty, and so she grabbed her keys to follow them to see what they were up to. She watched them check into a hotel room and took pictures as she devised a plan and prepared for Poe's return. Liberty were in a hotel room still talking things over about Dahlia and Poe. Rocco was continuously calling Poe but never got an answer. Dahlia had prepared for Poe by waiting for him butt naked, and upon his arrival they went at it. After they were done, she hit him with the pictures of Rocco and Liberty checking into a hotel. He acted as if it didn't bother him on the outside, but on the inside he was raging. Anyway, Dahlia had got Poe addicted to coke. They would snort it every time they had relations until it turned into a habit of Poe's. That way Dahlia could control him and call all the shots. They had planned on a weekend getaway out at sea, and before they left, Poe gave little Mikey the okay to take out Rocco. What neither of them knew is that Liberty's car had been vandalized and Rocco had let her use his whip until she got hers fixed. In the meantime, Rocco didn't know what was up with Poe. He had completely cut him off and Rocco needed answers, so he went by the mansion. Since Poe never answered his phone, shortly after arriving to the estate, Rocco was bombarded by Zulu and his men. He was looking for Dahlia. Zulu wanted her head. One of the men shot Rocco in the leg in an attempt to get answers as to where they could find Dahlia. Zulu wanted her to die with his secret. While Liberty had pulled up to a diner to get something to eat, and of course she was in Rocco's truck. She was deep in thought, thinking about a shot because this just so happened to be the anniversary of his death. So she closed her eyes to see his face as she sat there and laid her head back in the truck. Within seconds, little Mikey shot up the truck thinking that Rocco was in it, and then soon realized it was not Rocco but Liberty. So yes, guys, this was some scandalous stuff going on in this book. So now I'm just gonna go into my thoughts on what I felt about this book. I thought it was amazing how the universe brought Poe and Liberty into each other's lives. It was beautiful, and their relationship blossomed so beautifully at first. And Liberty should have never gone back to Africa to find that long lost cousin of hers. I don't understand why she went looking for the cousin when the cousin never came looking for her. She claimed that Omega had taken her all over the world, and not once did she look for Liberty. Next one is Liberty should have taken heed to the signs at the beginning when cousin was making it evident that she was jealous of Poe and Liberty's relationship. Pointer, I don't understand why Poe never believed Liberty about Dahlia when he always had in the back of his mind that Dahlia was shady based on how she did her husband. Very disloyal and untrustworthy. Next one, I wish Trixie had given Dahlia a two-piece snack in the midst of their altercation. I just knew that when Trixie pulled off that wig, she was about to box with Dahlia. I didn't understand why Trixie was running around without a weapon of her own to defend herself. Being that she was a pimp, prostitute, and diamond hustler, she should have had some type of weapon on her. Poe should have considered Liberty's feelings more when it came down to how she felt about certain things like the diamond business. I feel like Poe should not have been letting his side chick fix no type of food or drink for his main and pregnant chick. Dahlia was wrong for murking the baby that was so shady, so unforgivable, and trifling. People let jealousy lead them to some pretty low levels. I feel like Rocco should have put Ayo up on game, especially if he knew in his heart that Ayo was innocent. He should have let the man return to Africa to his woman and son, and then told Poe that he took care of everything. Also, I think Dahlia is a whole piece of work. However, I think it would be Poe who handles her. I also hope that he finds out everything that Dahlia did to destroy his relationship with Liberty, Ayo, Omega, Rocco, and his very own seed, so that he can deal with her accordingly. I also hope Poe gets off the drugs. I want to know is, why do these men always end up having an inappropriate relationship with their connects women, sisters, or daughters? That should be rule number 1 of the Hustler's Manual. Oh yeah, guys, these are my thoughts. This book was very scandalous. However, it lets you know you can't trust any female around your man, blood or mud, and they definitely don't need to be living in your house. Can't trust these males or females at all. Comments below on this book, and we will begin reading the last book of this series immediately. It will be Murderville 3, The Black Dahlia. Thank you all for joining me in the reading room today. I look forward to seeing you all on the next book review. Thank you for your time and energy. Peace and love, and as always,
DJ Mike C on the track.
Cause that be natural. Lady D. Looking tacky. I keep my game tacky.
Yo,
yeah, I'm so nappy. Cause that be natural.
The infamous.
Ain't looking tacky. Cause I keep my game tacky.
I'm so pretty, I'm so faboo, I'm so natural. It's like